state of Iowa. He takes on the drug companies, everybody. And he's earned the confidence and trust of not just Iowans, but attorney generals across the country. Great leader. We're very lucky to have him in the state of Iowa. And Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks to all you. Just what Mike was saying, what you're doing is incredibly important. The times are as difficult as we've seen in a long time. The choice is more important than we've seen in a long time. And we're probably ahead in a lot of races. That doesn't mean we win. It only means we have the potential to win. So what you're doing to get the vote out over the weekend and on Election Day is incredibly important. Because if we do get our vote out, this will be an incredible victory. If we don't, it will be a terrible, terrible defeat because of all that's at stake. You know, we've been having fun traveling around the state, the three of us here. Sally has, you know, been one of the great figures in our state and our party in the last 10 or 15 years. She and Governor Vilsack were an incredible team that worked together, served our interests so well. Sally in particular worked on children's issues and special needs issues and left an enormous mark and legacy in state government as a result of that. And she, you know, she did double duty for us. She was our state party chair as well during part of that time and did a great job there. Sally, thanks for all you've done for all of us and for our party. And Mike is the best state treasurer in the country. Terrific public servant. Good to see you, Mark. Mark's done a super job in the legislature, and obviously it's important to get him back in and continue his wonderful service. Becky Greenwald has been, I think, a terrific candidate. Didn't know her that well until she ran, and I've been impressed with her energy, her commitment, her drive, her zeal for the public interest over the special interest, unlike you know, the opponent has it the other way around. Tom Harkin, he doesn't have his usual tough race, but we still need to get some votes for him.
Right.
Make sure that he goes back in. But I'd like to talk a little bit about Barack. Mike did, but I will as well. Mike described why he's so important now in terms of this financial crisis, and a crisis where it's steady leadership, calm leadership, inspiring leadership is so important. But I'd like to talk about a couple of other areas that I think it's so important about Barack, and it's going to make such a big difference. One is changing Washington. Washington needs to be changed. It's a city that's dominated by the special interest and paralyzed by partisanship. And Barack will go right to the core of both of those things. His whole life has been the public interest over the special interest. He lives it every day of his life. And he means it. He said he's going to put the public interest first. And that's part of the reason I support him. I came into politics a while ago because I believed that as Attorney General, I could use the law to serve the interests of ordinary Iowans. Well, Barack is saying, well, we should do the same thing in Washington. And the other thing is that enormous partisanship gridlocks everything. He does reach across party lines, and he does have the confidence and the ability to be secure in himself and listen to the other side and agree with them when they're right, talk to them when they're wrong, and to go out and create a new dynamic with the public in terms of special interest no longer, partisanship no longer in Washington. He will change that city. And he will change politics too, I think, if he wins. The reason I say that is that, you know, the Republican playbook, particularly at the presidential level, has been attack the other side. Get the other side to believe either that the Democratic candidate for president is not patriotic, is weak, is someone that you just shouldn't have as president. That's been the core of their campaigns, and it's worked. And John McCain was different for a while. He said he wouldn't do that. But then it came to the summer, it looks like they came to him and said, unless you do the traditional thing of tearing down Barack, you're going to lose. So what do you want to do? Well, he said, okay, let's do that. And since midsummer, it's been attack with Barack. And Barack is someone who inspires people. Barack is someone that reaches out to people's good instincts, doesn't play on their bad instincts. And a metaphor for all of this, including the potential for me, was that last debate between Barack and John McCain. And I listened to one of the cable channels afterwards, and they're doing the usual analysis. And they were saying, well, that was McCain's best debate, you know. I mean, he scored points. You know, McCain was attacking Barack all the time. They said, well, he scored points. He did pretty well. Whereas Barack was, you know, ignoring some of the petty stuff, answering, I thought, very well some of the other petty stuff, but saying it's not about the petty. They polled the American people. The poll comes in that shows that the public got it. It was Barack by more than 2-1. It was McCain's worst showing, which says a lot because his showing in the polling after the first 2 debates was bad. This was the worst. And then, of course, they said, well, you know, how did Barack win it? And they said, well, he did this, he did that. They switched gears completely. But the point is that the public, I think, has the ability in this campaign to reject that Republican playbook, the swift vote ads, and all the garbage that's directed against Barack. If he wins, that won't eliminate that stuff, but it'll cut it back, because it didn't work this time. And I think that is important in terms of this outcome. And the other thing is that he'll change the world. If Barack is president, the world will view America in a totally different way. And we need that. This administration has earned, unfortunately, an incredibly bad worldview of the United States because of the way they've conducted themselves. And the way I try to understand what Barack can do excuse me, in the world is, I'm a big sports fan. And a couple years ago, I was watching the Super Bowl. And there was a guy by the name of Hines Ward. He's a wide receiver for Pittsburgh Steelers. Caught a lot of passes. Pittsburgh won the game, and he got to be the most valuable player, the MVP of the Super Bowl. And it turns out that, like Barack, he's of mixed race. His mom is a Korean. His father is an African American from the United States. Excuse me. And when Korea found out about this, they brought him back. Had parades, and they honored Hines Ward. And I didn't realize it at the time, but in Korea, the prejudice against people of mixed race is enormous. And because of Hines Ward being the MVP of the Super Bowl, they changed 2 of their worst discriminations. Prior to that, if you were mixed race in Korea, you couldn't be in the armed services. You couldn't even be in law enforcement. And they changed that because he won the Super Bowl. Well, think about it. That happened because he won the MVP of the Super Bowl. What happens in the world? Barack Obama, an African-American of immense talent and charismatic ability, stands up and takes the oath of office on January 20th as President of the United States. He will change the world. He will change Washington. He'll have a change effect on politics. There's so much at stake, and the votes are out there. We just have to make sure that we get every last one we can between now and 9 o'clock Tuesday night. Thanks for everything you do for Barack and Mark and everybody else on the team. This is